They had called it the Accord Summit, a peace conference meant to end a long and bitter tension between humans and the Galactic Council. Dozens of species had sent their highest-ranking ambassadors. Cameras floated like silent drones above the glittering marble halls of Yadal Prime, the Council's neutral planet. There were banners of peace, symbols of unity etched in glowing alien glyphs, and forced smiles on far too many faces. But no one was watching the room more closely than the humans. Humanity had earned a seat at the table 2 decades ago, though many of the elder species said it was too soon, too violent, too unpredictable, too emotional. But humans had advanced fast, even faster than the Lorak, who'd once been considered the rising power. In just a few centuries, they'd gone from crawling in the dirt of Earth to crafting warships that could match any in the known galaxy. And the Council didn't like it. They didn't say it out loud, of course. They smiled, nodded, made speeches about equality and peace. But behind every kind word was a sneer, a dismissive flick of a tail, a twitch of feathers, or a muttered slur in an alien tongue. Primates, barbarians, warborn. Commander Mara Lennox sat with a straight back and silent eyes at Earth's table, flanked by 2 of the most respected human diplomats, Ambassador Reeve and Colonel Hannah Talbot. Each wore Earth's emblem, a burning star rising from a shattered chain. And every being in that chamber knew what it meant. Humanity had broken free of something the others never did. Not slavery, not colonization, not war. Limitation. The Council's chair creature, a 6-eyed, serpentine thing named Veltharan, hissed through its translator. And so we offer a 10-year demilitarization plan. All species are expected to reduce warship production by 40%. Peace is our priority. A low murmur passed through the chamber. Agreement, approval, even applause from a few tentacle-clapping delegates. Then silence, as the gaze of the room turned toward the humans. Ambassador Reeve stood, smoothing the dark sleeves of his uniform. And what of the Jarathi raids on our outer colonies? The ones you called isolated incidents for 5 years? What of the trade embargoes, the weaponized economic sanctions, the propaganda campaigns painting us as monsters? Veltharan gave a slow, wide blink. We understand your concerns, Ambassador Reeve, but escalation cannot continue. There must be sacrifice on all sides. Reeve's smile was thin. Sacrifice? Yes, we've made plenty. We gave up Pluto's rings to avoid offending the Oran Federation. We banned the use of Earth-based AI in Council territories, while the Varnari continued to deploy their hive algorithms without question. We agreed to settlement limits, travel restrictions, even planetary cultural bans, and every time we compromise, we are painted as the threat. The hall was silent again. You could feel the tension building, sharp and cold. Veltharan offered a nod that meant nothing. This is diplomacy. Every species must— That's the problem, Colonel Talbot said, rising slowly. You don't want diplomacy. You want obedience. The Council hissed, buzzed, snarled, clicked. A Lakari delegate stood, antennae twitching. This is uncalled for. No, Mara Lennox said. She hadn't moved until now, her voice cut like a blade through the thick, stale air. This is overdue. The humans stood, all 3 of them. Quiet, unshaken, not angry, just done. Reeve stared at the Council with calm defiance. We didn't claw our way through the ashes of nuclear winter and survive centuries of war just to be told we're too wild for your delicate egos. We came here to build something better, and you want us on a leash. Mara turned toward the door. Humanity withdraws from the Accord. Gasps, screeches, roars. You would leave the Council, a Jarathi cried, its voice rising in panic. Reeve didn't answer. Neither did Talbot. The humans just walked, slow and steady, past the blinking lights, past the cameras, past the statues and symbols of a unity that had always been a lie. The room erupted into chaos, but the humans didn't look back. And somewhere, in the deepest reaches of the galaxy, in a dark room where real decisions were made, not by diplomats, but by kings and warlords, someone whispered the words, "They stood up." And another voice, quieter, colder, replied, "And the galaxy should be afraid." Back on Earth, news of the withdrawal hit like a comet. The headlines blared across every screen. Humanity leaves the Accord. Earth walks out on the Galactic Council. Diplomacy dead? The media scrambled to spin it. Some praised it as a proud stand for sovereignty. Others warned of disaster. But in the corridors of military command and deep state agencies, there was no panic. Just preparation. Commander Mara Lennox sat alone in the orbital command station above Earth. The Earth Spire, they called it. A 90-kilometer-high megastructure reaching past the clouds, into the upper atmosphere. From her glass window, she watched the sunrise roll over the planet's curve. It was beautiful, sure, but Mara didn't care for beauty these days. She cared for readiness. "Any retaliation yet?" she asked. Major Kaito's voice crackled through the comm. "The Jarathi moved a cruiser fleet to the Carlos Ridge an hour ago. No shots fired, but that's not a flex. That's a threat." Mara gave a dry chuckle. "They're testing us. Good." "You think they'll hit?" "They'll think about it," she said. "But they won't dare, not yet." She knew how they worked. The council wasn't just a government, it was a performance. Every decision filtered through layers of politics, species pride, cultural bureaucracy. They wouldn't act until a committee had weighed the odds. And that gave Earth time. Time to get ahead. Down in Geneva, in the granite core underground bunker called the Vault, Colonel Talbot debriefed with Earth's top defense brass. "You did what?" one of the generals barked. "We stood and left. Like we agreed," she replied coolly. "You were supposed to stall for time, not torch the whole damn table." Talbot leaned forward. "You think they were ever going to treat us fairly? They had the sanctions ready before we arrived. The whole summit was a setup. Either we bowed, or they'd make us bleed for pride." The room fell into a tense silence. Then a grizzled admiral at the back, Admiral Rourke, spoke. "Then we'd better prepare to bleed." But not everyone on Earth was ready for that kind of talk. In the megacity of New Jakarta, protesters spilled into the streets. "Peace, not pride," their signs read. "Humans belong in the galaxy." Others wore the old council insignia, chanting against militarist isolationism. Factions flared online, on airwaves, in every nation. It wasn't just about politics, it was identity. Were humans part of the stars, or still the war-born exiles the galaxy believed? Even Reeve, now back on Earth, received death threats and praise in equal measure. He'd been burned in effigy in the Europa domes and hailed as a freedom icon in Neo-Kenya. He didn't respond to either. He just prepared for the next move. Because the council wasn't going to let this go. 2 days later, a message arrived. Not a formal communique, but a leaked transmission. Deliberate, dangerous, and public. The Varnari High Mind had issued a joint statement with the Jarathi war priests. Humanity's withdrawal from the Accord signifies not neutrality, but hostility. Their rejection of peace puts all member species at risk. A united response must be considered. The threat was thinly veiled. The galaxy, once posturing for peace, now slid toward shadow. But the Council had underestimated something vital. Humans weren't unified by bloodlines or caste systems. They didn't function on hive minds or hereditary oaths. They were chaotic, yes. Prone to infighting, yes. But they were also built to resist, adapt, overcome. Mara stared at a tactical map of known space, red pings lighting up in council zones. she whispered. They wanted us quiet. Now they'll hear us roar. Meanwhile, hidden deep beneath the Martian surface, in a black site known only as Forge Point, humanity's most dangerous project woke up. Project Vindicator. The AI was not sleek or polite. It was built to win wars no one should survive. Shelved for peace, feared by Earth's own ethics tribunals. But now it stirred with permission. Its first words were simple. Cold. Query. Threat matrix updated. Initiate counterforce analysis? Talbot stood in the observation chamber. Yes. Begin Scenario Delta. And so Earth began to sharpen its claws. The galaxy watched humanity leave the table. Now, they would watch humanity prepare for war. 6 days after the walkout, the BattleNet lit up with encrypted chatter. Alien comms intercepted, dissected, and interpreted by Earth's deep-crawl intelligence AIs. Dozens of council fleets were repositioning. No formal declaration yet, but humanity didn't need one to know what was coming. The council had decided. Humanity was no longer a peer, but a problem. In low orbit over Earth, Fleet Command Omega was fully mobilized. Warships once meant for joint patrols were now painted black and marked only with Earth's flaming star. The ISS Nightfall, humanity's most advanced dreadnought, completed its refit. It no longer carried diplomatic shuttles. Only railguns, pulse torpedoes, and drone squadrons programmed to strike without warning. Commander Mara Lennox paced the bridge of the Nightfall, her face lit by tactical displays. Status of the Hypergate interference array? She asked. Functional. Deployed to the edge of Sol's perimeter, replied Lieutenant Vora. Any hostile gate entries will get scrambled into subspace noise. Good, she muttered. Let them try. There were only so many ways into Earth's system. The hypergates were the cleanest, but now they were poisoned traps. Any council ship trying to warp in directly would get vaporized in the dimensional crush. Still, the danger wasn't in direct attacks. It was in isolation. The council knew Earth's true weakness wasn't on the battlefield. It was in the supply lines, trade, resources, allies, and already the choke was beginning. On Titan, shipments of helium-3 were halted under a council compliance order. On the Europa trade network, Earth's currency was frozen out. Stations orbiting gas giants reported power grid disruptions, sabotage cloaked under mechanical failures. The slow strangulation had begun. At Forge Point, Project Vindicator continued its predictive modeling. On one screen, it showed a red map of Earth's economic viability in the next 8 months if embargoes persisted. Result: societal unrest probability, 61%. Civil destabilization, 43%. Risk of planetary economic collapse, 31%. Talbot stared at the data. We don't have 8 months. No, Reeves said, entering the chamber. His face was pale. We have one. He tossed a data chip onto the console. Council's going to vote on a planetary containment resolution. If it passes, they'll designate Earth a rogue system. Full blockade. Sanctioned military force. They're not bluffing. Talbot's jaw clenched. And what are the Terran Alliance members saying? Reeve shook his head. Most are staying silent. A few are already backing away. They're terrified. And honestly, I don't blame them. But Mara didn't flinch. She stared at the stars through the Nightfall's viewport. Each one a possible enemy. Each one a lie that had once promised peace. She opened the comm line. All units, this is Commander Lennox. Effective immediately. Earth is under DEFCON 1. We will not wait to be strangled. We will not go quietly into subjugation. Begin Operation Sundagger. Across Earth's outer colonies, silent fleets powered up, blackout beacons activated, and somewhere on the edge of the Sol system, a human stealth cruiser launched on a one-way jump toward a council data relay. Its mission was simple. Shut the galaxy up. Back on Yadal Prime, Veltharan coiled around a table of panicked ambassadors. "They're escalating," a Lakari hissed. "This is madness." "No," the Varnari Highmind replied in its cold, hive whisper. "This is evolution. The primates have teeth." The council wasn't ready, not really, because they'd believed their own propaganda, that humans were just another species that could be folded, trained, contained. But humanity had never played by the galaxy's rules. When diplomacy failed, they didn't whine, they didn't retreat, they adapted, they retaliated. And worst of all, they remembered every insult, every betrayal, every slight disguised as policy, every lie dressed as diplomacy. Now they had no more patience, and nothing left to lose. The stealth cruiser, ISS Revenant, moved like a ghost along the edge of dark space, undetectable, invisible to council surveillance. Cloaked in silence, wrapped in layered subspace distortions, it was the sharp tip of Operation Sundagger. A dozen elite operatives were aboard. No names, no ranks, just a mission. Infiltrate the Central Council data relay near Vorta Station. Steal or destroy the diplomatic backchannels coordinating the embargo. And, if possible, broadcast the truth. Commander Lennox had personally approved it. Quiet wars required loud messages. The galaxy needed to see the Council's hypocrisy, unmasked. On board the Revenant, Agent Dax crouched in the dark of the launch bay, checking his plasma rifle's coil for the 5th time. Across from him, Agent Leon calmly fitted her neural link visor, her face unreadable. "You think the Council will even believe it?" Dax asked. "When they see the messages? The sanctions plans? The secret votes before the summit?" Leon didn't look up. "They won't believe us, but some will start to question. And that's all we need," their team leader growled. "Doubt." The Revenant breached Council space with a single blip, dropping out near the Vorta Nebula, a swirling mass of blue and silver, beautiful from afar, and radioactive as hell up close. No one expected human ships to come near it. That's why they did. 10 minutes later, the team launched. 10 black pods shot through the void, magnetically attached to the underbelly of the Council relay station. Silent entry. No alarms. No screams. By the time the first Varnari technician noticed the atmospheric breach, his lungs were already full of acid smoke. The infiltration was surgical. No survivors. In less than 20 minutes, the operatives had what they needed. Hard drives full of classified communications. Sanction drafts predated before Earth ever walked out. Military strategy files marked with PRE approval. Even a document titled Project Compliance, suggesting Earth was always a target. The Peace Summit had been bait. The truth in raw code. And 23 seconds before station security arrived, the Revenant broadcast it wide. Every open channel, every trade network, every colony on the outer rim, pirate signals, civilian relays, even back channels used by smugglers and rebel groups. The truth dropped on the galaxy like a meteor. And for the first time, the story shifted. The Council had tried to paint humanity as unpredictable, aggressive, volatile. But the leaks showed a different truth. One species constantly bending to impossible rules, being punished no matter how hard they tried to comply. Even some within the Council froze. A few of the Oran senators issued statements calling for an investigation. The Lakari homeworld erupted in protests, their civilian population shocked by the betrayal. Vel Theran ordered the Council into closed emergency session. But it was too late. The story had broken containment. Back on Earth, the mood shifted like a storm turning. In New Jakarta, the protests stopped. In Lagos Spire, citizens began flying the human star again, and in Neo York, where riots had sparked the night before, a single hologram message played across the skies. "We didn't leave to start war. We left to stop losing ourselves." M. Lennox. But while the world rallied, Commander Lennox stared out at the endless stars and knew it wasn't over. Not even close. Because the Council would hit back. Not with debate, not with words, with fire. And they'd hit where it hurt most. "Ma'am," said Lieutenant Vora on the bridge of the Nightfall, "we've got a distress signal from Proxima Outpost. Multiple Council ships inbound. Civilian population. 75,000. Mara's eyes narrowed. "So it begins," she whispered. She turned toward her crew. "Battle stations. Prepare to jump. Today, we remind them why they should fear what they tried to silence." And somewhere across the stars, a Council admiral gave the order that would ignite the war no one could stop. The skies above Proxima Outpost were on fire. 3 Council warships had breached the orbital perimeter without warning, firing before they even broadcast a challenge. Civilian transport shuttles exploded in arcs of light. The orbital station, a symbol of Earth's peaceful expansion beyond Sol, cracked in 2. Debris tumbling toward the colony below. On the surface, sirens screamed, families fled into bunkers, automated defense turrets activated, but they were designed for pirates, not war fleets. Children cried. Emergency lights flickered. It wasn't just an attack. It was a message. You don't walk away. The Council had made their choice. In orbit, the Nightfall burst into real space with a flash of light and rage. Commander Lennox stood on the bridge, her eyes locked on the 3 Council ships already locking weapons on her. Status? Shield integrity at 94%. Forward batteries online. Drone squadron primed. Civilians still evacuating. Less than 30% out. Mara clenched her fists. "They want to make an example of us," she said. "Let's oblige." She didn't give a speech. She didn't wait. She gave the order. Fire. The Nightfall unleashed hell. Railguns tore through the vacuum, punching holes in one of the enemy frigates before its shields could fully engage. Drones swarmed like a mechanical hive, hitting blind spots mapped long ago in Earth's classified vaults. Plasma torpedoes screamed toward the command destroyer, melting its side armor on impact. But the Council ships responded fast. Trained, aggressive, ruthless. They weren't here for diplomacy. They were here to annihilate. The Nightfall took a hard hit to its starboard hull, sending a tremor through the bridge. Sparks rained from the ceiling. One crewman was thrown into a bulkhead, neck snapping on impact. "Medical team to deck 3, someone shouted. "Return fire! Target their engines!" Lennox barked. Below, in Proxima's underground command center, Governor Arison watched the orbital battle from a flickering screen. "Why aren't the Council responding to our surrender?" he demanded. The defense officer beside him shook her head. "They're not here for surrender. They're here to erase us." On the feed, the 2nd Council frigate exploded, its core detonating in a blossom of blue fire. Cheers erupted from the bunker, then silence as one voice murmured, "They're retreating." In orbit, the remaining destroyer veered off, bleeding plasma and smoke. The Nightfall didn't pursue. Mara didn't want a chase. She wanted survivors. Let them crawl back to the Council. Let them deliver the new message. Earth fights back. After the battle, Mara walked through the Nightfall's medbay, where injured crew lay in silence. Some stared at the ceiling. Some wept. One just clutched a bloodied Earth emblem in their hand. "Send this to command," she said to her comms officer. "We held the line at Proxima. We bled, but we held." And elsewhere, across colonies, neutral systems, even hidden rebel nodes, people watched the footage. A lone human ship, outnumbered, holding its ground, defending civilians, fighting not for conquest but for survival. And slowly, something terrifying started to happen. Support. The Vascan trading clans, long considered fence-sitters, announced a pause in Council trade. The Serac nomads began transmitting old Earth music in defiance of Council blockades, broadcasting the song Don't let them burn your sky across deep space channels. Even a few Lakari diplomats, trembling but resolute, publicly condemned the attack on Proxima as a breach of every law we claim to uphold. And on Earth, Talbot met Reeve in the war room, both faces pale. "They drew first blood," Talbot said. Reeve nodded. "Now the galaxy gets to see what happens when humanity doesn't flinch." Back in deep space, a Varnari mothership listened to thousands of intercepted transmissions. One voice rose above them all. A human civilian, barely audible, saying, "We may not have the numbers, we may not have their legacy, but we've got something they forgot to fear, resolve." The ship's AI flagged the word, resolve. And then, across Council intelligence reports, a new designation appeared in red. Humanity, status, uncontained. A week after the Battle of Proxima, the galaxy changed forever. Not because of the ships destroyed or the blood spilled or the sudden halt to Council supply lines, but because of who began to speak. Across hundreds of worlds, voices once quiet, once obedient, started to question the very structure of galactic peace. Civilian broadcasts in Council-aligned systems ran unsanctioned footage of Proxima. Human civilians huddled underground, children screaming under bombardment, followed by the nightfall rising like an angel of vengeance and forcing the attackers to retreat. It didn't look like aggression. It looked like survival. And for the first time, many began to wonder, had the humans been right all along? On Yadal Prime, chaos brewed behind closed doors. The Council emergency session was no longer calm or calculated. The elder species yelled over each other, gestures turning violent, translations failing under the sheer weight of emotion. Veltharan struck the floor with its tail, a booming slap that silenced the chamber. "They will destabilize the Accord," it hissed. "If humanity is allowed to continue unchecked, every species will believe they can defy this council." One Lakari delegate stood, trembling. Or perhaps they'll believe they can survive without it. That murmur of doubt had never existed before. Now it echoed. Back on Earth, Commander Lennox met with Talbot and Reeve in the Vault's strategy chamber. The room felt heavier than usual, the light colder. "We're winning hearts," Reeve said, folding his arms. "But it won't last. Sympathy fades. Empires don't." "We can't win a long war," Talbot said grimly. "Not one fought on every front, with every trade lane sealed and every comm channel poisoned." "We won't fight a long war," Mara said quietly. "We'll end it fast." She placed a data chip on the table. It glowed red. Reeve frowned. "What is that?" "The Ghost Fleet." Both of them froze. That name hadn't been spoken aloud in years, not because it was classified, but because it was terrifying. 27 stealth ships, cloaked beyond known detection, equipped with banned weaponry, black hole warheads, neural disruptors, nanophage torpedoes, never officially acknowledged, not even during Earth's closest brush with extinction. "They were decommissioned," Talbot whispered. Mara shook her head. "Number they were buried. Waiting. For the day diplomacy died." Reeve stared at her. "You're proposing mass retaliation. We won Proxima on the moral high ground. You want to throw that away?" "We didn't start this war," she said. "But we are going to end it, one node at a time." The Ghost Fleet launched within 48 hours. Unseen. Unknown. And across the stars, Council black sites, unofficial prisons, weapons research labs, shadow colonies began to vanish. Not explode, not burn, vanish. No communications, no escape pods. Just silence, the kind that chokes systems. At first, the Council thought it was sabotage, then pirates. But when they found a single pulsing beacon on the edge of the Narthan wastes, broadcasting Earth's old pre-warp Morse code, it became clear. The humans weren't just retaliating. They were dismantling the whole illusion of power, piece by piece. And then, in a moment the Council had feared since the day Earth first built its own warp gate, humanity did the unthinkable. They took a Council world. Ilvana 3, a minor trade hub, rich in diplomatic history, completely dependent on the Accord for defense. One night it was under full Council control. The next morning the Earth flag flew above its capital dome. No civilian casualties, no long siege, no broadcasts, just one hacked feed playing a simple message. You told us peace was conditional. We reject your terms. Shock spread like wildfire. Even Earth's own citizens didn't know what to make of it, but the effect was immediate. Council supply chains snapped, allies panicked, small empires fractured, and the Varnari High Mind issued a rare statement. Humanity is not at war. It is correcting a lie. Veltharan raged. Then we must show them the truth of power. But no one answered, because in every chamber of authority, one terrifying fact was settling in like a sickness. The humans weren't fighting to win. They were fighting because they had already decided they'd rather burn everything than crawl again. It began as a whisper, just a rumor passing between ships at port, soldiers in backroom barracks, civilians on crowded trams. The humans took another world, not with fleets, not with demands, but with a message, a warning, and then silence. In just 3 weeks, Earth had captured 4 minor Council systems. No unnecessary bloodshed, no propaganda campaigns. They didn't need to scream their victories. The galaxy was screaming for them. Every planet they seized was a reminder. Humanity was done playing by someone else's rules. In the outer edges of Council space, chaos bloomed like a plague. Supply chains collapsed, trade convoys rerouted, entire sectors began to shut down. Not because they feared human weapons, but because they feared what came next. What happened after humanity walked away from diplomacy and started rewriting the balance of power. And yet, through it all, Commander Mara Lennox stood calm, unwavering aboard the Nightfall, now orbiting Ilvana 3. Its citizens were uneasy, but unharmed. The Earth banner hung above their capital, quiet, uncelebrated. The humans didn't parade. They didn't gloat. They just maintained order, restored services, and held the line. We're not conquerors, Mara told the local administrators. We're reminders. This is what happens when a seat at the table is replaced with a muzzle. But not everyone believed the restraint would last. In a secret meeting room on Veltar Prime, the Council's military elite gathered, cloaked in shadows and fear. The Ghost Fleet is dismantling us one outpost at a time. We can't track their movement. Half our AI sentinels have gone silent. They've hacked our deepest vaults. Even our own people are starting to doubt the Council. Finally, Admiral Surash, a war beast from the Krath Dominion, slammed his clawed fist on the table. This is what happens when you let monkeys into the stars. Silence. Then a quieter voice answered. No, said the Varnari High Mind, appearing through a shimmering interface. This is what happens when you mistake endurance for submission. The room froze. The Council was fracturing. Fear was no longer an emotion. It was a currency. And Earth's shadow weighed heavy over every world it touched. Back on Earth, Talbot stood with Reeve in the Strategic Command Center, listening to dozens of feeds, watching system after system report instability. We're reaching the edge, Talbot murmured. Another push, and we don't just destabilize the Council, we collapse it. Reeve nodded. Then we better decide. Do we want to replace it, or destroy it completely? Neither had an answer, because neither wanted to rule a broken galaxy. They just wanted to stop kneeling to one. But the galaxy didn't understand restraint. It only understood power. And so, in the dark cold of Council space, something terrible woke up, Project Tribunal, an ancient war fleet mothballed since the First Accord. Vast, brutal machines, ships the size of cities, crewed by AI that had no empathy and no memory of peace. Veltheron authorized it without a vote. If the humans want fear, we'll give them extinction. The Tribunal fleet ignited with cold fire, and across Earth's long-range scanners, a single signature appeared. Unmistakable, impossible to fake. Omega-class dreadnoughts. 37 of them, headed for Sol. Mara stood on the Nightfall's command deck as the alert lit her screen. Her crew went silent. The room held its breath. "They're coming," said Vora. Mara looked up at the stars, not afraid, not shaken, just resolute. "Then let's make them regret thinking we'd run." Space around Sol shimmered like glass under pressure. 37 Omega-class Tribunal dreadnoughts tore through the black, engines burning pure antimatter, hulls made from quantum alloys that had never cracked under any weapon in known history. Each ship bristled with weapons designed not to win wars, but to erase civilizations. As they approached the edge of Earth's defense perimeter, they didn't send warnings. No demands, no diplomacy. The Council was done talking. And humanity? They didn't talk either. They answered. In orbit around Jupiter, hundreds of cloaked defense stations powered up. Satellites once registered as weather monitors and mining rigs. They were neither. They were part of Earth's final contingency, Operation Lazarus. Commander Mara Lennox stood on the bridge of the Nightfall, parked directly above Earth like a guardian, her face calm, her orders clear. "All units engage blackout mode. No signals, no chatter. Let them come blind." From the Martian forge pits, the Ghost Fleet emerged at last, dark, starless shapes drifting out like phantoms. Vindicator AI controlled their movements now, calculating kill zones, interception arcs, and psychological damage coefficients. Colonel Talbot, aboard the stealth cruiser ISS Eclipse, looked over the incoming dreadnoughts. "They outgun us 5-1. Vindicator's voice responded in a tone without emotion. "Outgunned does not mean outmatched. Initiating Phase 0. From the shadows of Saturn's rings, nanophage warheads launched. Invisible. Silent. And seconds later, the first of the Tribunal dreadnoughts blinked out of existence, not exploded, not shattered, just gone. Every atom broken apart from within, melted into the vacuum by engineered blackworms designed to eat matter faster than light. The rest of the Tribunal fleet did not slow. They opened fire. Thousands of plasma lances cut across space, each one strong enough to shatter moons. Earth's orbital shields flared, buckled, held. Barely. Cities on the surface lost power. Tsunamis sparked from shockwaves. Communications went dark. Panic gripped civilians, and still Earth did not surrender. Instead, Mara gave her second order. "Launch the Ark Protocol." Deep beneath Antarctica, in a vault older than the Accord itself, 10 towers of unknown origin rumbled to life. Their purpose had been hidden from even the highest Earth governments, their power not understood, only feared. They rose into orbit slowly, humming like dying stars. And when the next wave of dreadnought fire arrived, the arcs did the unthinkable. They bent space. Shots meant for Earth twisted mid-flight, folding into subspace folds and firing back at their source. Tribunal dreadnoughts took their own plasma bursts at full force. 2 exploded on the spot. 3 more drifted helpless, their hulls twisted by gravitational inversions. Then came humanity's final message, one last broadcast, open frequency. It was Mara. No threats, no screaming, just her voice. Calm, steady. "You wanted to teach us fear, but we were born in it, molded by extinction. You believed you could control peace by controlling us. Now, You will see what peace looks like without Earth in your hands." And with that, Earth's remaining fleet charged. It was brutal, chaos wrapped in silence. Dozens of tribunal ships fell, surrounded, devoured, disabled. Earth lost hundreds of pilots. Whole wings of drones vanished in the void. But they never broke. Even when Earth's last line, the defense rings of Luna, were breached, the Nightfall stood tall. Lennox stared at the burning stars and whispered, "Not today." Her crew didn't ask for orders. They just followed her into the fire. And then the impossible happened. The tribunal fleet retreated. What remained of them limped back toward Council space, crippled, confused, not because they couldn't win eventually, but because they'd seen what no species had ever made them see. Humanity would never kneel again. Not for peace, not for war, not for anything. Back on Yadal Prime, Veltheron watched the reports in silence, 6 eyes blinking in disbelief. "They survived," it whispered. "They more than survived," a Lakari delegate said quietly. "They endured." The council fractured within days. Worlds declared neutrality. Some offered alliance to Earth. Others simply stopped answering council calls. And in the dark, vast center of the galaxy, a new fear was born. Not of human weapons, but of human memory. Because humanity remembered everything, every insult, every betrayal, every time they were told to wait, to calm down, to behave,